Hi, I'm Lucas Mack, and I'm on a mission to see the hurting get healed and the healed go out and heal others, in order for all of us to experience the true love and light we desire. This podcast is me sharing my journey with you, so you don't feel alone in your journey. Welcome to the Golden Rule Revolution. Hello, brothers and sisters, and welcome back to another episode of the Golden Rule Revolution. I am Lucas Mack. Thank you for joining me. We are rounding out the year 2022, and this year for me has been one wild journey. I moved my family across the country, work, job, had a new baby, house, moving, and then dealing with a lot of health issues in my family this year. And it's been quite the journey. And yet the blessings of moving through it all have been so apparent on the other side, not necessarily going through it, but definitely on the other side of it all. In this episode, I am honored to bring Lesley Wirth to this podcast. Her and I have had this really cool relationship. We talk about it probably for the past year and a half. She reached out to me and thanked me for some posts that I did and content. And I've just really connected with her. In this episode specifically, when we recorded it, I was going through a really rough time, just dealing with the health of my wife and just a lot going on. And yet so much beauty comes from this episode. And Lesley is an incredibly divine, powerful, authentic, God-loving, truth-loving, sovereign-loving, holy, living being. And I'm so excited that you get to hear this conversation. And I pray that it blesses you along your journey. So without any further delay, enjoy. My dear sister, my sweet, sweet sister, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. As I said in the intro, everyone, Lesley and I have had a really beautiful connection for some time now, and we've kind of like danced around the connection, and then we finally had a call, and it was amazing and definitely in alignment. And so thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
There's so much we could talk about. The world is so wild. Our journeys have been so wild to come to this place, but you know what's so beautiful is our mission is so similar.
Yeah.
And talk about, one of the things I really wanted to hear from you, or I wanted people to hear, is your heart and your mission today. So before I guess we get into that, you want to share your story and your background and what brought you to this point now?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's so much I could share, but I think when you said, your heart, it actually was a gift for me in this moment, because I feel like I've been in my head today, just to be transparent, and it instantly brought me back to the truth of what matters. And I feel that our heart is this connection to the divine, this connection to our soul. And, a lot of indigenous cultures believe that that's where the seat of the soul is. And so we can hear guidance through that place. And when we live from that, I've learned, for me, my personality self is definitely learning a lot, because my mind maybe not as evolved as my heart space or as my soul wisdom is. And so my mission is to provide people with tools, with conversations, and with the grace to be able to heal themselves through using their heart, through their connection to the divine, and to really normalize the human experience in that process. Because I think that in the self-help world, there's a lot of showmanship as well, unfortunately, that shows up. And it's certainly not everyone, but you can feel the authentic beings and you can feel the power they carry. And I want to invite more of that and more dialogue around, the power of humility, the power of God, the power of the light, and to love up on all these other things that our soul is going through as we navigate this.
So you, oh, beautiful. We are recording on Wednesday, the 23rd. So for everyone listening, I don't know when this will air, but I put a podcast out this morning. The title of it was Trauma Imprints and Grace. And just you said grace, and grace came through so heavy today. It gives me chills. Grace. We just, one of the things that's beautiful of our conversation before is reclaiming these words that have been hijacked and taken for rides and abused and manipulated and by all sorts of people and modalities perhaps. But this concept of grace is what I felt today when I shared in this podcast. Is it's always present. It's ever present. It's the love of God is ever present. It's just we forget sometimes to receive it intentionally. Like, just that I'm just so glad you said that word. It's incredible. I don't think I've ever titled a podcast Grace. I've never talked about grace today, but here you've
Here
said
we are.
grace, and here we are. Yeah.
I love that you're saying that too so much, because I actually have some chills, because I feel like you said, it can be this word that's like spiritual jargon, but that's very different than the purity of it and the power of it, and being able to work with it, meaning open to it, asking for help, letting it come in and support us, and not feeling like we have to do it all on our own.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell me share your journey. You have really beautiful perspective. Just share your journey of how you got to this place. How are we talking? Where'd you grow up, and your spiritual path, I think, is really unique and cool. So share that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in the Midwest in a farm town in the middle of nowhere. A tomboy jumping off roofs in and out of the ER constantly, just total nature person.
That's awesome.
And
What state?
Minnesota.
Minnesota. Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I moved out to California when I was 22 and did the whole LA scene for 10 years, which was fun for like 2 years. And then um yeah, and then I went to grad school there and got my master's in spiritual psychology, and went on to live kind of all over California and Hawaii a little bit. But the journey for me has always been just this deep desire for two things. One, to know the truth. And what that meant for me was like the highest truth possible. And the reason that mattered was because I was suffering as a kid, right? Like it isn't some mental thing. It was like, okay, my brain, my thoughts are not helping me. So what can I find that's bigger than that? Affirmations didn't work for me. I didn't really love myself. I didn't have much support. I kind of took care of myself a lot emotionally. And so I was scared a lot, and I relied on God for everything, basically. Right. And I ended up getting sick at about 36 and going from doctor to doctor to doctor to doctor, and nobody could help me. And I would go to healers, and there was just a lot of like spiritual bypassing in the way that they were approaching me. And I realized that nobody could really hold space for my anger, and nobody could really hold space for what was authentically true. They were always trying, and very well intentioned, right? They were very well intentioned, but they were trying to get me to the other side of what I was going through, because that was maybe the quote unquote spiritual place to be, in the place of acceptance, or all of these things that are, of course, important. But I was really needing at that time somebody to say, it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be grieving. It's okay to be afraid, and like, let that out. Let's go, like, bring it.
Yeah.
And so I started to become that for myself, and just started working very strongly or regularly with the divine, because I didn't, at one point, I didn't even know if my brain would work again. I couldn't add numbers. I could barely walk. There was all these things happening where I had no choice, but to go past my mind and try to hear my soul's guidance, because I didn't even know if I would be able to function properly again.
Wow. Wow.
And that was the beginning of starting to receive really beautiful guidance that came through, like in symbols and images, and these different ways that I began to cultivate that deeper connection and be able to hear, which has just grown over time.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Um, the holding space,
Mm-hmm.
so critical to it's such a basic human desire for having another person just simply hold space. And yet most of us, until we've actually had someone hold space, don't even know that we're lacking this desire. I think when
Mm-hmm.
um before I went into a container that could hold space for my trauma, like you were saying, these they just want to get you to the other side. Or like I was in the Christian loop, so it was like, well, forgive and repent and
Mm-hmm.
confess your sins and live holy and live sanctified, and like, oh God, okay, well, how much do I not swear, don't drink, don't do it. Like it was like trying to box me into this place where it was like, if you're on the shelf, you'll be okay. And I'm like, I
Mm.
want to burn the shelf. I want to burn the shelf down. I want to burn it all down. Like, this is
Oh my gosh.
not the container that I'm here to be in, until someone held space for me. And it was like,
Mm.
and it's such a beautiful thing for you to share that you could hold space for yourself. I think that is the truest gift. Um, try not to cry. That is the truest gift, is to be able to hold space for ourselves so that we can hold space for others. And in that place, in holding space, there's no judgment. And like you're saying, it's
Right.
just seeking truth. It's just hearing truth and being in truth. And I want to make this about you. I just, so many things have, I've been on this journey. I haven't, I've, today was the first podcast I posted um, since early October. Been going through just a lot. And yesterday I really felt like I hit my max.
Mm.
My wife's been dealing with a lot of really scary health issues. Friday night, she passed out in the middle of the night,
Mm.
smashed her face into the wall,
Oh.
bleeding unconscious. And my oldest, she came downstairs and it's like, Mom, I don't feel well. So she had a fever and I got a baby. And I'm like the world's nuts, and I'm like at the peak of my just trying to hold things together. And this is not about me. I just share like how I tie this back. Um, and took my called 911. The EMTs came, they did all these tests, and she's been going to neurologists and ENT. We can't figure out what's wrong with her.
Mm.
And I thought she was dead. She wouldn't respond. It was scary. I mean, it was just bleeding. It was so terrible. Um, and then the next day we come home and she like naturally wanted my like emotional,
Mm.
she wanted me to be close emotionally. And I was like holding it down, getting the kids ready, taking it, like I was just in execute mode. And I was
Mhm.
getting really angry, not at her, but I just felt anger. And so I went for a drive and I just, God and I have these drag out like like my life has been so hard and so beautiful at the same time. There's been this complete opposite dualities. And so I scream and yell as loud as I could. And then I realized, and this is what I want to relate back to you, just about holding space. When I was young and I could not, I had no sense of self because it was always taken from me physically and in
Mhm.
every category. Then my mom wanted me to protect. I became the emotional husband for my mom.
Mhm.
And so she would like take from me emotionally. And then I'm just trying to like survive, not get violated in every category physically. And it was like, so I didn't know why all this anger was coming up until I went and like had to yell, scream my brains out, and be really angry with God. And then he showed me, here's why you're angry. You're angry that, and I was like, wow, I feel on the other side of this veil that hmm, it is possible for me. sharing with you, my dear sister, that I can, if I choose, go through this veil and be on the other side where I'm purely back giving emotionally in these very traumatic situations. And I told my wife yesterday, because I was explaining this to her, I'm like, I don't know if I want to. And it's the very first time that I have like put a comma or a pause on this healing journey where I was like, I don't know. I know it's possible, but I had to hold space for, I'm only bringing this up. It's like, I had to hold space for myself to be like, whoa, is that right or wrong? It just is. And I was almost like, would I dissolve into the etheric nature back into the oneness if I did go through this portal? Because it is like the utter essence of like, I have no more ego container at that point. It's like, I feel like I would like dissolve away. I don't even know how to describe it. And I'm just sharing this with you as like holding space for oneself. I mean, I'm in this like right now. Had I not been able to hold space for myself, I wouldn't have been able to share it to my wife. And she knows my whole, her and I have been in this journey together. So she was like, yeah, that makes sense, and she didn't feel the rejection of me not being able to like just be lovey-dovey and cuddly. I'm like, all right, what else? Do you need food? Do you need water? Do you need, can I get you a blanket? Like, and I'm just pure execute mode. And, I just share all that because I feel like I needed to share that with you. And also the holding space. It's like no judgment. Is it right or wrong? Good or bad? Just is the isness of it all,
I love that you shared all that. It actually, I can relate. And I feel I don't know if this will make sense to you, but I feel like that is your heart. Like my heart feels so connected and I feel connected to it listening to your truth of your experience. And it's like there's this dance that we do of our brains tend to separate us, if that makes sense. So it's like, why can't that be the most beautiful, loving, godly thing you do, to be angry at the fact that you've had enough in that moment?
Yeah.
And it's like just that feeling of, when's it, I'm putting words in your mouth, but because I can relate, I'm going, yeah, I've been feeling like, when's it my turn? When do I get a break? Why is this so difficult? Like just feeling those feelings. That doesn't take away from the grace, the beauty, the light. It's like the mind is what separates that. And so I always think, well, no, I am going to be angry. I'm going to express my anger. I'm going to yell, like I yell too. And ultimately, that is the thing that allows, I've learned over time, the most grace, guidance, love to come in, because I will kind of blow open a hole and space for that to come to me, if that makes sense. Right. So
totally does,
the way through is not always the pretty put together journey. And I just feel like this is what healing and connection really is it's these parts of us going to God and being like, help me, what the F, and being able to do that, it's okay to do that.
Yeah. The I don't know, this time and space that we're in is just so, there's so many people we're all, I think, I can't speak for everyone, but I can't think of a person I'm closely related to or in relation to that isn't going through something. It feels like everyone is going through something right now. And it's almost, and I see it as a gift, but it's also, this just comes back to holding space. Like, it's okay to yell. It's okay to yell at God. I mean,
God can take it.
Yeah.
If anybody can take it, it's God, right? It's not so much people.
God can take it. And it's almost funny too. It's like, he knows what's in our heart. He is waiting for us to just let it loose. Like, he doesn't care about the beauty. The beauty is in letting it loose. The beauty is in the release. The beauty is in the surrender. The beauty is not
Mm-hmm.
in the buttoned up,
Mm-mm.
white robed, you know, formality, right? There can be beauty in that, but I'm just saying that's not necessarily where beauty is found.
And I think maybe it's just me, and maybe it's I think you feel this way too. But I just sense that people are hungry for authenticity, hungry for, they want that space to go to. They want the people that they can trust. They want the people that are not going to miss their light because of all their stuff coming up. And,
Mm,
this has been a commoditized thing, the healing journey, unfortunately.
yeah.
There's a lot of great marketing plans, there's a lot of great talk. And again, I'm not trying to sound negative to people. I'm about people. I'm just saying that there is a desire in all of our hearts to be loved, seen, worked with, and honored. And I
Mm,
think that we can't do that for each other if we don't know how to do that for ourselves. And so when you are doing that for yourself, you are that safe haven for someone else, because you
mm,
you step up for yourself and you're authentic and real with you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's it's so funny you're talking about the healing world. This morning I a really beautiful brother friend of mine, very successful, many patents to his name. He's just a brilliant guy. He's a wild, beautiful soul. And everything he's introduced me to in my life has helped me heal. He's been kind of this forebear for me and introduced me to things, and then I join it, and it's been incredible. And he introduced me to this coach that or the coach of coaches or whatever, and it's helped on there, and I knew the sales process. He's taking me down, and I'm aware of, the questions he's asking me, but I liked them. And so I'm like opening up to him. And then it got to the point where I was like, maybe I'll work with you, maybe not, and I'll talk to you after the holiday. But this morning I got on my knees, I was praying. I'm like, God, seriously, I don't want, I want the monetary blessings in this world, but I don't want to monetize healing. It just seems so antichrist in a way, but it seems like at the same time, there's no form. I don't, it's almost like taking something so holy and pure and then putting it in a factory and then making these little boxes like, here you go, here you go. It's like no different than in Christianity. It's like, oh, if you say the sinner's prayer, it's like, congratulations, you're totally transformed. Like, well, I just said that. Like, so trite. And I don't know what I'm sharing other than there is this purity, that this like true, authentic, holy wind. And every time I talk to you, I really like I'm talking, you're listening, but I really love like this space you're holding. It's like I can feel it's like this wind, this movement, this beauty, and it's not to be commercialized, and it's not to be that's where the humility comes in that you're talking about, and it's like if I can box it up, and it's like, well, that's takes away the reverence of it or something, or the be careful, don't touch it with dirty hands type feel. And I don't mean God, I just mean this whole space of healing the soul and coming back to the heart. Like that's the, I would say, like the purest treasure of our existence.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because I was talking about this with another person too, and I completely hear you. I understand there is a sacredness, and it should be available to everybody no matter what their financial situation is. And at the same time, I personally feel like I've been in training to do what I do my whole life, and that I should be compensated fairly for it.
Yes.
But I come with a pure heart, if that makes sense. I come well, and I have to be careful with that, because every time I say I am something, I'm shown where I'm not. So I better be careful. But you know what I'm saying.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's like I could change all sorts of things about my bio, and I could flip this up to be a money making thing, or I can bring the messages through that are most important and
So
stick
good.
with that
So good.
connection.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's not that we shouldn't be compensated. It's like almost like the compensation should be there because I don't know. It's just a weird thing. I'm wrestling with this right now. And you're in,
Well, it's
um,
like, where are you coming with? Because you can feel like when I was in the coaching industry for a long time, years ago, and then I left and I worked in end of life for 6 years, and now I'm back doing, I'm teaching and
right.
working more mentorship. But I left for two reasons. One, my health at that point that I alluded to before went down the toilet, and then number two, though, I was listening to people lie to themselves about what they were doing. So for like best
Mm,
way to put it is yes, I'm going to charge this much because I'm going to do this and this for this person, and ultimately I'm serving them. That was the big thing. I'm serving them. And yet it was, everybody was reading the exact same book, everybody was using the exact same language,
yeah.
everybody was following the exact same
Yeah.
formula, right?
Yeah.
And then I was just like, well, hold on a second, would you say everything you just said to that person if you weren't charging at the end?
Mm,
That's where you know where you're coming from,
that's so good. That is so good.
right?
That's it. That is so good. That is so beautiful and pure.
So I feel like if you would say the same things, if you would help in the same way,
Mm.
even with, not that you have to give the same, because there has to be that exchange, but you know what I'm saying, right? You would
Yes.
still
Yes.
offer the same language, the same path, paid or not. You'll know where you're at inside of you, and that's where we need to be checking is ourselves.
Mm. There's this book called Getting Naked by Patrick Lencioni, and it radically transformed because I had my own agency for many years and 12 full-time employees, and it was just a small little company, but it was a beautiful company and did a lot of great work. But I read this book called Getting Naked, and it gave me, I had a spiritual um moment reading this book, and the whole point of it was give. It's kind of like the Go Giver, that book. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's like in sales meetings, just give your ideas away, and if the right company wants to work with you, they'll work with you and pay for more of your ideas. But if they take your idea and run with it and don't work with you, that shows you they're not the right person you'd want to
Mm,
work with in the first place. And it gave me, because I'm always giving ideas. I'm like, we can do this and this. And I've had companies take those ideas, and I can see them right now as the companies that people would know and buy from, that I gave those ideas just because I'm excited. And then I
mm,
was like, is that right or wrong? And that book was like, no, it's the right, be authentically you. And so I feel like it's very similar in the fact of like, if you're going to love and serve people, love and serve them, regardless of if there's a pay structure tied to it or not.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that it just feels so good inside. It just feels so good inside to support others. And there's so many people suffering. This woman reached out to me the other day who's domestically abused, and I'm starting to
Mm.
teach for abuse survivors as well. And it's amazing even to hear her talk to me about like how she wants to be positive and how she wants to be conscious and how she wants to be all these things. And I'm working with her in a little bit. I gave her like 30 minutes, like no charge. Not that I was even thinking in that way, but I'm just like, how can I show up and serve right now and be of help? Because why wouldn't you?
Right.
Somebody's suffering.
Right.
And um, I think I'm bringing this up for that purpose, but then also it was amazing to listen to her battling inside of herself after just being beaten up on
Mm.
if she should, how to be conscious, how to be positive, how to be healing. And so we had this conversation about number one is deal with the trauma. Because if you're working on your auric field and your energetic body and your intuition, which is a lot of what I kind of talk with people about normally, but you don't address the physical, you don't address the trauma, it's just going to be mayhem. It's
Mm.
just totally crazy, right? And so I'm bringing that up. I think it just came to me, but also this invitation again to like keep our feet on the ground with whatever we're doing, because actually the more we open up spiritually, the more rooted we have to be,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
So
Um, what has been your um who is the gal that you studied with or studied under? I remember like early on you posted photos that I
Amma.
Amma, yeah, tell me that journey.
Yeah. So I'm 42. So when I was 28, I was seeing a healer who looked at me and she looked at my heart. I've never experienced anything like this. She just, hello, nice to meet you. We sit down. She looks at me and she looks then up at my face and she's like, who's the man with the dark skin and the shaved head and the brown eyes? And I was like, what is happening right now? And she just said, he's in your heart. And I just started crying. I was like, that's my ex.
Mm,
And she had that gift of being able to see, and I needed to release him from my heart. There was pain there.
mm,
And she was the person that introduced me to Amma. And Amma is what people call an avatar, like a realized being that comes back to the earth to support us in healing and to awaken the planet.
mm,
And she's done more humanitarian work than anybody that's ever existed. I mean, it's insane. She sleeps like an hour a night.
mm,
That's it for many, many years. Really doesn't eat or drink much of anything.
mm.
And all she does is support people in their healing. And she actually supported me. I had a physical thing going on after 12 years. She healed it just instantly. Yeah.
Wow,
And
that's amazing.
yeah, yeah, I told her and I felt all this energy come bursting through the top of my head. I was like high, like vibrating for like 3 days, could barely sleep, just off my rocker with Shakti energy. And
Wow.
it healed instantly. Yeah.
Wow.
She's
That
unbelievable. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
what's the book that I read? Oh, the autobiography of a yogi, learning all those different and India is so fascinating. The land, the energy, the lore, the spirituality, the blue beans, these like it's just incredible to see the actualization of
Mm-hmm.
the desire in practice, like these
Mm-hmm.
sleeping an hour a night and actually being that which I don't know about you, but I feel like, man, I want to be that, but also I don't know if I want to give that which it takes to be that, or I like wrestle with these things, which is what I was talking about, getting put on this shelf in Christianity. Like I was fasting from Sunday night to Tuesday morning. I was praying 2 hours a day. I was
Mm-hmm.
striving so hard to be this like etheric being. Like I thought like my skin should be like the clothing to the Holy Spirit, where I had no more sense of self. But then I realized, but anyway, my point is I find these beings so, I'm so thankful they exist. I'm so
Mm-hmm.
thankful. And yet so many of them come from, I mean, I don't even know what it is. It's just the Western culture just is such a machine that eats away the human soul. I think is maybe they just don't have that machinery hijacking all the time or jackhammering against them.
Yeah. Well, we're a very materially rich place where they're a very spiritually rich place. And it's not that they can't cross over and that there's not beautiful, you know, temples and gold and all of these amazing things there, and that there's not deeply spiritual people here. But as a collective,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
very different. And the richness there is of the spirit, is of the heart. And as I listen to you talk about your experience, it's just maybe this is just my interpretation, but it's just this yearning in you that is so beautiful and powerful that then got like messed with by these external forces that weren't necessarily how you would have done it. It didn't allow it to blossom organically in you from your heart versus if I do it this way from the mind, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just that's I think how things change is just that organic yearning. And I really think if we go back to that idea of grace,
Mm.
people sometimes think they have to earn it, which we both know isn't true. It just take, I mean, look at a drunk who's like all of a sudden sober because this grace just came in, excuse me. But I think that a yearning heart, a heart that deeply yearns
Mm.
for love, for support, for grace, for truth to come in is a magnet
Mm.
for that. I think it's literally a magnet. And that's why yelling and screaming and being angry and having this huge human experience doesn't deter grace. It's like that it's like some part of us is like, just stop this. But what is under that heart that's saying, God, come, or God, awaken in me, right? So they work together. They work together. And when we can allow that whole part of us to exist, this whole experience of being human, and this whole thing to be this holy awakening that doesn't have to look like a neat, tidy bow. It just matters is what is our heart yearning for?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so beautiful. Um, this concept of truth, you and I, it's, I mean, just hearing you, I'm like, of course, like this is just a continuation of our other conversation that felt like just the other day, even though it's probably been a few months now. And this concept of truth, I've always, my journey of seeking truth has been like, I crave truth more than anything and everything. And yet in the anger of being in that confused fog of narcissism and gaslighting and like not knowing what truth is, like, but seeking truth. Now I'm at this place where it's like truth exists prior to our conscious awareness of it. And that's what I want to live in. Like, I want to live in the truth that existed prior to beingness. And that, and I'm reading like Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teachings of the World or the Universe or the Ages or whatever. And he's breaking down all the secret teaching schools and I see how all these different teachings, Genesis 1 through 3, contains its own lens on these teachings. And I'm like, before written word, I want to know truth. Before, that's like,
Yeah.
I want to be
It's the purity of it.
purity of it, in it, from it, through it, by it, with it, like all of it. And yet here I am getting pissed off that I'm like thinking about capacity, but it's like, maybe that's just part of the experience of understanding it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's so wild. It's like living in duality, truly understanding like this. Sorry, I'm talking a lot. This is about you, and I really want to hear.
No, I
You're
enjoy
an
listening.
incredible space holder for this. But it's like, that's the duality, right? It's like living here now. Like, this is a windscreen on a mic, and this is all we're sitting in front of computers, but then our heart craving that which is above, beyond, through, in, by all, the truth, like that really frees us.
Yeah, that anger though that you're talking about is like that to me is the door in a way. We think of meditation as the door. We think of the right X, Y, and Z as the door, which they are doors. They're beautiful doors, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But so's anger, so's rage, because you sit in that and you say, please come in. You open that door and you ask for help. What other kind of door is there, right? You open that door in meditation to find the light. They're both beautiful doors. So if we use things, we can use everything for that truth.
That is a good word. I'm gonna sit with that for a long time. That is a good word. I've never even entertained that before, and that is really beautiful.
Well, I think if you've had enough, you being any of us,
Mm-hmm.
of something, whatever it is, for some people it's abuse, for some people it's poverty or illness or whatever it is. Um, those are the times where life is shaping you into being in a position where there is nothing else you can rely on but that truth. And so again, it's like then if we're looking from the top down at our own lives and we see from our highest perspective, from the eyes of compassion, at every good thing we've done, at every brilliant way we've shown up, at every brave moment that we've had, and asked for help or opened our heart or cried our tears or let somebody come into our home or took care of a family member or whatever it is that we're doing, or even if we fell on our face but we got back up, even if it's 2 months later, like I think again we're so afraid to like say I'm not okay right now. And to just all of those things are bringing us back to the truth if our heart yearns for it. It's the yearning heart at the end of the day. And so how can we not see this human experience as the most sacred thing our soul chose to do?
Hmm.
It's just a thought.
This is
I mean,
beautiful.
I really see it as
Beautiful.
holy. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be uncomfortable. I don't want that for anybody. But I think we're so afraid of it, and we separate it from the light when it's not separate.
It's so, I love that it's, well, yesterday I'm seeing, because I was really angry. And when I went on that car ride, I mean, God and I have, if he was a physical being, I would fight him to the death. I had just, not because I hate him, I love him so much, but I'm so angry at this
Mm-hmm.
whole, all the crap that I've had to go through. And
Mm-hmm.
um and yesterday I was wrestling with, like, Jesus said, be angry and sin not. Like, it was a commandment. And I didn't yesterday understand, like, what does this mean?
Mm-hmm.
I understand the sin not means to stay in love. So it can be angry and stay in love. But now as you're sharing this, is like what I'm saying. I've never heard this, this other, that the anger is also the portal to say enough. And maybe God is just waiting for, because he can outlast the fight. That's the funny thing. It's like, are you done? Are you done? No, you're not done. Okay, you're done. Oh
Okay,
my
I'll wait a
God.
little longer. All
Okay.
right, I've got eternity.
Exactly. When are you done? And that is such a mm, so yeah. I'm I want to say I'm done. I'm done. Done with the poverty, done with the pain, done with the, it's like, as much as there's pain, there has to be the blessing of the,
Mm. Can I share something really vulnerable
please,
about that?
please,
Okay.
please.
So like I said, I've been kind of in it myself lately. And it's been really interesting. You said the word blessing. Maybe you can shed some light on this.
Mm,
But I've been, doing the whole angry conversation too. And just my thing generally is, what do you want from me?
mm,
Like, what do I have to, and I don't mean it consciously, but so I've tried to trace that back to, like, where does that come from?
mm,
Right, because it's not a performance of, if I'm good then I'll be blessed, as much as I think it's like this sarcastic way of being like, I'm doing everything I can, what, that kind of energy.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so I've been in this for a lot lately, and related to some things going on with my health, and I keep hearing blessing, 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 and I'm like, so is this a blessing? Are you blessing me? Like, am I supposed to ask for a blessing? Like, and that's my mind getting involved, right? But it's a very interesting thing. And I don't know, I think there's certain things we can't figure out till you look back.
Yeah, yeah. Yesterday, or a couple of days ago, maybe at the grocery store. Yeah, it wasn't yesterday, but at the grocery store, um, I used to say God bless you to people all the time, and then I just stopped saying God bless you. And this lady was working her butt off checking. It was like no one's working, and the lines were like 30 deep. It was crazy. And this old 75-year-old woman, maybe older, I mean, she was certainly, well, I mean, she was late 70s, is begging groceries as an employee. And I'm like, where are the young 16-year-old kids? Like, what's
Mm,
happening? So I get in this conversation with them, and I asked them where all the kids. They said their kids don't want to work anymore. They can't get kids. It wasn't like a generational thing. I'm like, wow, kids these days. No, they were like, kids don't want to work. But there was no young kids working. It was like elderly people that still need money. And then
mm,
it was jolting. And I just saw these two women working so hard, feeling the energy of everyone pissed off in line, everyone
mm,
angry. And here they just continue to this. And so it was interesting. I told her yesterday, and I didn't think about it. It wasn't conscious, it just came out. I was like, God bless you. And she looked at me, and I still can feel it in my heart right now. I was like, it did something to her. It did
mm,
something to me, and it did something to her. And it wasn't like it wasn't a platitude. It was like truly intentional blessing to her. And so this concept of blessing, and when you're hearing this, I'm like, what is this? What is a blessing and what is a curse?
mm,
I know they're opposites. There's the verse in Proverbs 3:33 in And the Bible says, for the curse of the Lord is in the house of the wicked, but he blesseth the habitation of the just. And it's like, there's a curse. The curse of the Lord is in the house of the wicked. So when we walk into the house, it's not that he curses us. It's that the house already has the curse in it. So when we choose to go into it, we're going to experience things that are not a blessing, but he blesseth the habitation of the just. So what is just? And I'm just wondering, like, what is this concept of blessing? When you're hearing blessing, but we're going through trauma, and I say blessing to her where she is like totally like holding barely on while all these people are pissed off in line. And it's like, there's something that I think, I don't know, I'm sharing this, just like blessing is like a higher plane of perspective.
Exactly. Yeah.
From going through whatever it is.
That was what was coming up for me too when you were talking, because I do have this, I don't know, ability to hear, right? To hear guidance. And there's been this very interesting dance with that, right? Because my human self is still having her experience, and sometimes I feel really connected and like I'm on the same plane, and it's great. And other times I'm kind of like stomping my foot, and I'm getting this really beautiful guidance. So I'm having to grow up into that guidance to meet it or to let it in to help me heal. And so as you're talking, it's like I have been hearing this too. You chose this. You chose this as a spur, and that
So
phrase
good.
too.
Yeah.
Like when people say it from the worst place possible, like somebody's just diagnosed and they're like, well, your soul chose this. And it's like, stop being an asshole. Like wipe their tears, help them out. Like, come on.
But I
that comes like 9 months later you say that.
Yeah.
But it is something trying to tell me, hey, this isn't really what you think it is. Your soul chose this. And I was seeing this white canvas, and it was like truly like I understood lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime was being wiped out through what I've been walking the last 2 years. And it was like, you are choosing to completely pay off in a way all of that, and to learn what you needed to have a soul that could truly serve. And that doesn't mean that my human self can't get annoyed in the process and also be totally grateful and amazed in the process. We can hold all of it, right?
Yeah.
But it is that higher view, like you're saying. That's why I'm sharing that. It's like this higher idea of like, maybe this is a real blessing. And you're like, well, wait, what? Hold on, you know?
As much as we're going through right now, all of us, I told my wife, because I've had these visions. I think I talked to you about these healing visions. I've had I mean, I can feel it. I know that I know they've already happened. I just haven't physically walked through them yet. I know what's coming. And is it in different dimension realm? I don't know. But I told my wife, I said, it would be the greatest curse. Just talking about blessing curses. It would be the greatest curse, the most cruel and unimaginable curse to me, if I have held these as visceral, these visions I've had, these dreams I've had, these like for the healing of the world. I've never sought fame. I've never sought, it's like, I've been looking at you like, we're going to stand on stage sometime together. I already know the people that we're meeting right now. I know the events we're going to hold. I know the power of God that will come in. This was all, I've seen these since the beginning of time. And I told my wife, I said, it would be the greatest curse and such a cruel God had I held these things and they never came to fruition. And it's so interesting that it's like the blessing is like the higher perspective of perhaps it's just like, I don't know, until the gun and the track is fired or the bell rings for the match to start or whatever, that like, it's like preparation goes all the way up to the last second and then it begins. And so I feel like maybe that's what's happening for all of us, is it's like we're there, but there's just the brushing away, the fine tuning. Yeah. It's like, okay. And to me, I'm like, okay, that helps me get grounded and centered again of, yeah, okay. It's such a wild. Oh, sis.
It's a journey for sure.
Yeah. Um, I want to do more of these episodes. I won't talk as much, promise. I want to hear from you. I feel like you talked so much in this episode. Um, what you've been writing, you have
Yeah.
stuff that you're coming out with, like
Yeah.
share your heart of where you are and how people can connect with you and
Yeah. Absolutely. So, the best way to connect with me is on my website. And because I have a name that is spelled oddly, both first and last name, that can be difficult, but it's lesleyworth.com. It's LesleyWirth. Because there's my email list. And I like to be a lot more open and in depth with people that are on my email list than I am on social media. And you can just share more. So, yes, I'm a writer, I'm a poet. I offer something called Poetry for Healing, which is a 6-week program that helps women heal, like reclaim their voice, stand behind their emotions, use their intuition, connect with the divine. It's this whole bridge we've been talking about the whole time of having your human experience and expressing it, but also being able to tap into the wisdom and the light that you hold and working together, but you're using creativity and spoken word to have that journey.
mm,
And then I'm just putting the finishing touches. Probably by the time this is shared, it will be done and up. But it's called The Power of Your Intuition,
mm,
which is a program that helps women actually learn how their unique intuition works, so
mm,
that they can understand how their body's talking, how they receive guidance, and use it versus running with a lot of just these mainstream ideas of what's fear and what's intuition, when actually you have to take into consideration what's going on in their life, what their soul blueprint is, how they receive guidance, all of it. So it's
mm.
allowing them to empower themselves through that connection.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Sis, thank you. I just
Yeah.
thank you. You're a gift to me and a blessing to me. So thank you. This has been
Thank you.
a huge blessing. And I want to do more. I want to do regular. I wanted um share stage with you. I want to create these spaces for people to heal.
Hmm.
And we will. We will.
Yeah, I love what you bring to. I mean, just the fact that you can just step in and have the confidence. This is how we started talking, actually. So it's probably a good place to end. Is you shared something on Instagram. I don't know how we got connected there. You know how social media is, like God only
Right.
knows.
Yeah.
But you shared something, and I was so moved by your honesty,
Mm,
um, because it can be difficult to be leading and also expose where you're struggling in the moment or what's coming up for you, because you don't want to be perceived as somebody who can't hold space or that can't help others. I know that you and I understand that that's not true,
mhm.
but sometimes it feels like, well, other people might not get that. So just you shared something about, you were like leading something, and the next thing I know, you're talking about having this huge transformation, and you thought you had overcome something, but you completely hadn't, and here you are in this place. And I can't remember the details of it, other than just it really touched me, and I reached out to you,
Mm,
and I was just acknowledging your courage. And I
mm.
feel like it's just second nature to you. You don't even maybe know you're doing it, but it's a big deal.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait for our next episode and conversation. And thank you,
Yeah.
sister.
Thank you for having me.
And God bless you. God
God
bless
bless you
you.
too.
God bless you. You're amazing. Thank
Yeah,
you.
let's see what blessings come up. We'll have
That's
to
right.
let each other know.
That's right. They're coming.
Yeah.
They're coming.
Yeah.
Sister Lesley, thank you again. Thanks for holding space for me. I know I talked a lot. And I want to have you back on so we can talk more about what you're up to. But really, thank you, sis. You blessed me greatly on this episode. And everyone, I hope you are blessed as well. Just hearing that whatever you're going through, other people are also going through something similar, if not the same thing. And so that knowledge of knowing that we are not alone in this journey, that you're not alone. I am walking with you. I share my journey, so you don't feel alone on your journey. That's how I open this podcast. And just know that you're not alone. And buckle up. 2023 is going to be mind blowing. It will feel like we're in a sci-fi movie. It will feel like we're in an apocalyptic movie. There will be multiple genres being played out at the same time. And yet at the end, when the credits roll, and the movies are all done, Everything that isn't based in love, truth, beauty, and goodness will be washed away. And what will remain are the souls standing in that love, who have stood in the love of God throughout the entire time. And in standing in God's love, when everyone else who might not have been standing in love get knocked down with all the truth that gets revealed in 2023, we will be there to graciously, lovingly, and in mercy extend our hands, pull them back up, and walk towards a new earth, a new beginning. Truth, beauty, and goodness will be the modality by which every single one of us engages each other. No more lies, deception, deceit, narcissists, pain, abusers, all the stuff, all the categories, which you know what I'm talking about, will be gone, and healing will be what is left. So I love you all. I bless you all. Thank you for joining me in this journey. I am Lucas Mack. This is the Golden Rule Revolution, and I will talk to you on the next episode. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for listening. For support in your journey, go to my website, lucasmack.com.